of life. Eric, you come from the less than 100 million and billion range,
Yep.
although you have some chops in there that you've probably forgotten about. But let me turn to you as one of our startup guys.
Okay, so basically I sat last on purpose so I could avoid being called second, but that's fine. So, actually, just to understand my point of view, I think before I talk, is I think I'm in somewhat of a unique position because I've played the role and continue to play the role of player, trainer, and coach. So, I mean, I've seen all sides of that. So I mentioned I've been in high-tech sales since '89. 10 years ago, I started 2 discussion-only forums on LinkedIn. One's called Sales Training and Enablement Pros. It's got about 11,000 users. The other is Sales and Marketing Execs, which has about close to 300,000 now. And so for 10 years, I've been facilitating discussions for peer-to-peer. The last 16 years, I've been attached to other L&D organizations and their initiatives, which I would say about 50% of them are sales focused. So I've seen it from my point of view as a salesperson, as a sales manager, as a sales VP. I've also, for the last 16 years, been partnering with companies on their sales initiatives. So when Paul asked me, and I got my little notes here, when Paul asked me about this sales rep assurance of performance, I was like, what does that mean? He goes, well, could we do a 3-day session and guarantee $1 million order? So I was like, okay, I'll fly up for this one. So I determined that, at first I was like, wow, that is the impossible question, but it is possible. And that is, and Steve, you're more networked into the local community, but if we could get a millionaire to sit in on the 3-day session, and as part of the certification, he gives them $1 million order at the end of the session, I think we've solved the problem. So, no 3-day event is going to change behavior so much that you could guarantee performance. I mean, that's just the reality. So, what is possible? And that's kind of what I'm asking. I guess first, I look at what companies are good at. I think, generally speaking, companies are really good at onboarding. I think they're good at the big change initiative, whether it's launching a new product, a new process, rolling out a new technology. I think they're good at content, making content available to the masses, which is necessary and sometimes is kind of like giving everybody a gym membership and saying everyone be in good shape in 6 months. Some people will go every day and others will lose interest after a week or 2. But if I look at what companies are struggling with, one, it's hiring. I would love to say that everybody in this room can be a top performing salesperson, and it's just not true. Not everyone's going to be a top performing physicist. Not everyone's going to be a top performing basketball player. Some people are not geared to be successful in sales. Also, sales is not a one-size-fits-all. I've seen enterprise salespeople vastly successful, working for IBM and Siebel, all of a sudden work for a startup where they have to evangelize the brand, and they feel miserably. I see people in call centers that are used to showing empathy and servicing a customer, and then say, hey, what do you use for high-speed internet? Using that service to sales thing where I know other people would just flounder. So, I mean, they're saying that there's a one-size-fits-all type of an approach. I don't think it's realistic, but hiring the right people and putting them in the right jobs, I think, is critical. Prospecting and solution linkage. I don't know companies that actually train this. Even when they bring in third parties, a lot of times it's more about a methodology and vetting and qualifying, but actually learning social selling, content marketing at the rep level, researching trigger events, using that to link to the customer specific environment. And that brings me to solution linkage, which basically I think storytelling is something that is transferable, something top performers do extremely well. But I also think that these days, and you read all the articles online, I mean, you see that people are getting all their information online and from peers, and it might be 65% into the sales cycle or the buying cycle, really, before they even engage with salespeople. So how do we arm salespeople with the financial and business acumen to understand how to engage at that stage? And then how do we arm them accordingly? Other areas where companies struggle, and you know, this happens to be my little thing, is training reinforcement. They're really good at the event, but if people are forgetting 60% or more of the training after the fact, you know, I mean, you might as well just pay people to take vacations if they're losing that much of their training. So how do you keep in front of that person to make sure they actually apply it? And lastly, and I think most importantly, is coaching. You know, and you know, you stole my thing on top performing salespeople always getting promoted to managers. And I don't think managers have the skill set, and they might have the ability, but they don't have the skill set yet of knowing how to coach. So what 99% of coaching becomes is deal coaching. I know deal coaching because I was a salesperson. I can close deals. But that is not performance development coaching. And that is not, you know, understanding the strengths and weaknesses of your rep. So that said, I mean, I could talk for 3 more minutes, but I mean, I've already used my 5+, so it's up to you. Okay, but I have on each of those points, I do have an idea of how you can approach it to achieve that objective.
You know, thanks, Eric. Eric made an interesting point kind of on social selling. I don't know if you heard about it, and being up and current on what's going on with that prospective client or your existing client as you're trying to engage them to buy more of your products or services. Selling is real time. It's interesting, and I think we've all been part of it. In a smaller organization, it tends to work better because real time is what are we going to do today, this week, and maybe this month from a reactionary perspective. In larger organizations, you may plan what you're going to train your salespeople about in July while you're deciding what you're planning to sell. And if you were in the oil and gas business trying to sell certain things when the business was booming and all of a sudden the market changes because price of oil goes down by 200%, did you ever go back and maybe retrain the sales organization? They're in a real-time world. So I think the timeliness of the organizational support they need from a learning perspective and many other things they need has a much different impact than things like manufacturing and other things where other than making it more or making it less, they're still cranking out the Coca-Colas in ones versus 100 million cans at a time. So I think that's something, again, I encourage you to talk about is how do you keep it refreshed and current? Because it does make a difference in sales.